Good morning, everybody. So, after what feels like a Cancer season that has stretched a lifetime, honestly, we get to say happy birthday to all those regal lions out there. Happy Leo season. The sun has officially entered into Leo. The moon is now in Cancer. So we've got a little switch going on with the luminaries. Let's get into our lunar load. And before we get into the nitty gritty, I do want to say that this week is a bit of a buildup of energy, exposure, and pressure. Kind of like a pressure cooker, actually, with the new moon in Leo coming up, which is something. So, when the sun is entering into this sign of Leo, we're looking at themes of boldness, visibility, and creative self expression. But I wouldn't get too comfortable because we do see the sun in Leo immediately oppose Pluto in Aquarius. So, what I would say to expect is going to be major power shifts, but also what we can see in the news in particular is going to be some major news about celebrities, either like getting exposed, canceled, possibly passing away, or it could just have to do with public figures. If it has to do with both, all in one person. But if not, what I think we can definitely also see is secrets being exposed, especially if it has to do with like crime and institutional exposure, kind of just unraveling in the criminal underground of it all, especially as we start to get closer to that Sun Mercury retrograde Kazim. We can also start to see more of this, I guess, like we start to touch on the surface of it when we get to the new moon in Leo. I think that'll be a time where things really get blown up for exposure the most because, like I said, that new moon is something else. But let's get to talking about the actual moon because this is the lunar lowdown. So the moon in Cancer brings in emotional depth, nostalgia, and sensitivity. And so you might feel the urge to retreat into your own kind of comfort zones. Especially if it has to do with like kind of taking care of family matters, home matters, or you're just trying to escape reality, like all of us are at this point, and just dive into nostalgia. But here's my main thing. Nostalgia is going to hit a little harder on Tuesday than it will on Wednesday because we have the moon making a lot of aspects on Tuesday. And so everybody's getting hit. So let's start out with the fact that the moon is conjunct Jupiter on the 22nd. And so what we can see is maybe us feeling a bit more deeply because whatever Jupiter touches, it expands. And I mean, that could include over nurturing people, places, and things. Because when we have the moon in Cancer conjunct the great benefic, I think we're definitely in a giving mood. But the downside of our feelings being blown up is that we're a little extra sensitive and we can feel, maybe a bit overwhelmed emotionally. And in that case, some of our feelings and emotions and those reactions, because the moon is going to be your reactions rather than your just kind of direct actions, those can be misplaced. Either way, you're feeling deeply with this aspect, and you can find yourself possibly expressing how you feel. But what's more likely is that you're hiding your feelings out of wanting to avoid inconvenience to other people or conflict. But hold on, we're not done because on Tuesday as well, we see the moon square both Neptune and Saturn in Aries. And so this brings in a little bit of tension between boundaries and burnout. Emotional exhaustion is another one, as well as insecurity and feeling like you're just kind of overextending yourself in general. People might come with a lot of expectations for you to commit to something like now, and you're just like, I'm not ready to make that decision yet, especially with Mercury retro. I think it's definitely an aspect that can have you feeling trapped, defensive, and emotionally raw, especially if these are the people that would not do the same for you in the situation, because we have to remember still, Leo is the general energy since the sun is there. And so Leo is about not necessarily about reciprocity, but it's about wanting to be seen, wanting to be appreciated. And if people are demanding things of you, with all of this already going on, you're like, you're pressuring me to do all of this stuff, but you wouldn't do half of this stuff for me that you're asking me to do. So fuck off. Finally, we have the sextile to Mars in Virgo late on Tuesday going into Wednesday. And so it does offer a bit of a way out, but it does add to like the insecurity and general vibes that we see on Tuesday. That aspect between the moon and Mars can really help you to have some sort of focus or at least prioritize and organize things in the order of which they need to be done and their urgency. And so it can also create a nice, like, practical self care kind of vibe as well, which I definitely think you'll need with all that emotional burnout and all those feelings. But other than that, I know this was a longer one, but we have a lot going on Tuesday leading up to the full moon. And remember that Mars, or sorry, not the full moon, the new moon, but also remember that Mars is also conjunct the South Node in Virgo. I did touch on that in yesterday's Lunar Lowdown. So if you want to know more about what that vibe is like, because that is also adding into today's Lunar Lowdown, like I said, this week is a pressure cooker. You can check that out in my prior Lunar Lowdown. But other than that, guys, that's all I have for you today. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.